What is the best Battle Royale to play in 2022? You want to invest some time in it from a perspective of a player or from a perspective of a streamer or content creator coming into it. Which one is the best to pick? There are new ones coming out all the time, but 4 Battle Royales really stuck for years now, and we're going to look at those and then look at some that came out recently or are going to be coming out soon and see if they're worth playing. It's not just going to be my subjective opinion. We're also going to look at different charts. We're looking at Google Trends, we have Steam numbers, and we also have Twitch numbers. So if we look at the general picture, and I put a little bit of my own opinion to it too, we can come up with a pretty good list. So let's dive in. Okay, cool. Let's start with Warzone. Call of Duty Warzone came out in early 2020, and it quickly became basically the #1 Battle Royale. Almost all the big streamers swapped to that game. Players swarmed into it. It was free to play, guys, and it played really well. The performance was good. The gameplay was good. It had some new elements in it, so it just felt like a pretty decent game to play. But slowly over time, it has lost a little bit of its popularity. And not just that, but the cheaters and some other issues kind of destroyed the integrity of the whole game. And they've never really managed to deal with that, even to this day. Over the few months, Warzone really lost a big chunk of players. So I would never put it in S tier right now, although some people would say there still is S tier. Maybe in some countries might be S tier. But let's look at some stats. So Google Trends say that Warzone is obviously in a downtrend. It's at 25% or even 20% of its peak, which was in 2021, and pretty close to about when it launched. But overall, that's not too bad. It's not too bad. Its player retention seems to be okay. You might think that this is bad. Trust me, you have to see what's bad. I'll show you later. And if we look at worldwide, we get the same exact graph. This game is popular in all parts of the world, I guess except Asia. As we can see, there's really no one playing it in Asia. I mean, yeah, there are people playing in Asia, but it isn't popular in most Asian countries. It's mostly popular in the US. Well, it is Call of Duty, after all. I would still say US and EU are kind of leading factors, and they determine whether the game is successful or not. Unfortunately, we don't have Steam numbers for Warzone, so we're going to skip that. And if we look at Twitch stats, it seems like Warzone has gone down significantly. I would even say the most out of all games in the top over the last half a year. So if it used to be S tier, now it's not, but I still think it's doing pretty well. It's still in the top 10 of Twitch. What Warzone does have going for it, though, is that there's a new version coming, and we don't know much about that, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people are excited about that, and that will mean that we're going to see Warzone again in S tier, I think, if they do a good job. So Warzone for now, A tier. Okay, so next thing I want to talk about is Fortnite. Fortnite is a very special game. It kind of made gaming mainstream in 2018 or in late 2017. Fortnite wasn't a battle royale when it launched, but they've quickly swapped to the battle royale being its main mode, and it just exploded. Without Ninja and all the other streamers, it really made battle royale mainstream, and it's what made some other games succeed later down the line. So if you ask me which battle royale is S tier, and if you could only put one in S tier like 2 years ago or 2.5, 3 years ago, I would say Fortnite 100%. Nowadays, not so much. It is definitely bleeding players. People really got sick of the building apparently, and cartoony stuff isn't for everyone. A lot of kids are playing Fortnite. A lot of kids are collecting Fortnite stickers and cards and whatever. But the game itself has been suffering for a long time, and it's been going down. But what Fortnite is great at, or at least their devs, they're not afraid of change. They're not afraid to take a map, throw it in the bin, and get a new one, and everyone has to play the new one. Everyone has to play it with the new rules that are introduced with the new map or new mode. And Fortnite never really did esports in a full sense of the word. I felt like they were more like show matches, and their World Cup was basically a show match, a promotion. So they kind of stayed true to the casual experience, but at the same time, the game is actually harder to play than basically any other battle royale. And if you look at the Google Trends, you can see that Fortnite at least worldwide, is still doing okay. It went down to maybe 18, the lowest, but this is one of the events. I wouldn't count this as the peak. I would say the peak was here in 2018. So let's say 20-ish. That's good. That's good. 4 years in, that's good. If you look at it in the US, it's still pretty similar, the graph. Obviously, it has lost a ton of players, but it's still relevant. It still exists. And if you look at Twitch, it's at rank 5. It is on a slight downtrend, but at the same time, you cannot expect games to be rank 1 for like 5 years straight. Well, if we take a little bit deeper look into Fortnite and the last 30 days on Twitch, it had a 35% increase in watch time. Now, what caused this? They introduced a no building mode that everyone was forced to play for the first week, and now it's an optional mode, but it's still there. And man, this had a great effect on the whole player base and the streamers coming back to the game. Again, Fortnite not afraid of changing, not afraid of cutting back on some old features and introducing new ones. And that is what keeps this game fresh. That is what keeps people coming back to it. I mean, guys, let's be honest. I think we're all a little bit tired of battle royales in general. Like, we are playing them, but we do want something new. And at least Fortnite is one of these games that will give you something new every few months or every year, even though it's still battle royale. Okay, with all this said, I think Fortnite is an easy A tier with the potential to jump into S tier at any time, because they might come up with some update that just blows everyone's minds again, and we're back with Fortnite being the #1 game on Twitch and everywhere else. So we'll see. For now, I would put it in A. All right, next game on the list is my home game, let's call it like that. PUBG, or PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds as they call it now. This is a rough one. PUBG made all these other games on the list happen. It came out before them, it defined the genre. But at the same time, out of the big games on the list, this one is definitely the smallest, at least in the West. And when I talk about games, guys, here, I'm mostly referring to the Western audience, because what happens in China doesn't really concern us that much. And in PUBG's case, it even makes the game worse if they cater towards an audience that doesn't think the same way that you do, or has the same requirements or needs or wishes for a game. PUBG is the hardest game to analyze, because if you just put in PUBG and you put worldwide, you're gonna get something like this. It's gonna say that PUBG has been the most popular in late 2020, which is definitely not true, but Google Trends don't really lie, right? Well, this is PUBG Mobile. This is mostly PUBG Mobile that you're looking at, because mobile is very popular in Southeast Asia, in China, India, that area. It isn't really popular in other countries in like US or Europe. You need to be very specific. You need to know exactly what you're looking at when you're going for Google Trends for PUBG. PUBG PC does give a little bit better picture, and this is worldwide. And I would say this is more accurate, but again, this includes a lot of Asia, so I wouldn't really go with this either. Right now it's at like 11%, but I would say the most realistic would be United States and just PUBG. And this is basically what it is. The mobile game is really not that present there. It's mostly the PC version, and the dates really say a lot. Like late 2017, early 2018 was when PUBG had most players. We can confirm that by looking at the Steam stats. This is late 2017 into early 2018. This is the peak of PUBG. This is where it really exploded. 3 million players, insane. I think this still holds the record on Steam for most players at one time. But as you can see, it went down pretty quickly, like 1 million players. It went down all the way to like 300K, and even lower than that at one point. And then we got free to play in January this year. As you can see, this is basically the same graph, but this is Google Trends. So I would say this works really well. And this paints a picture of how popular this game is in the West. What the Steam graph doesn't say is what the ratio is between Asian and European and NA players. So this is where this more detailed graph comes in. If you look at every day and the cycles, you can see that it peaks at about 2 p.m. UTC. That means that it peaks at China's or just Asia's peak hours for gaming, which is in the evening, like 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And where's the bottom? Well, when it's EU/NA time to play. And it bottoms out pretty low. Look at that. 70k and 60k in the evenings. That's really not that many players. Of course, there's Asians still playing, so who really knows how little players it actually has in the evening? If we look at this lifetime graph zoomed in on this free-to-play period, you can see that it gained a pretty decent chunk of players. It almost doubled for a second there, but it got like 20-30% more players in the end coming into free-to-play, which is, I guess, expected, and we're still yet to see what's going to happen with the player base, but the game did get more players and the queues got faster. But unfortunately, on some servers, you just cannot get games in certain modes or maps, and it's pretty bad. And that is what was happening here with a lot of players leaving, and yeah, it does say 300k, but you cannot get a game. This is a problem I'm going to talk about a little bit more later with some other games that kind of died because of the same reason. Now, what really sets PUBG apart from these previous games is its position in Twitch watch time rank. I had to scroll quite far down to find it, and it's at 27, and it's on a downtrend. Even though it got a ton of new players, it's still on a downtrend. I didn't expect this, honestly. So that really means that the game isn't that popular in the West. Or it seems in the East either, at least not on Twitch, but of course Chinese don't stream on Twitch and a lot of other Asians don't stream on Twitch, so it's understandable. But if Twitch is a reflection of what's popular in the US and the EU, well, you can definitely tell that PUBG is far from the most popular battle royale at the moment. Adding all of this together and the fact that PUBG hasn't really changed in the last 5 years, is the only game on this list from the bigger royales that hasn't really changed. I would say PUBG is going into still B tier, but with a tendency of going down to C very soon, I would say, if it doesn't do something drastic. And yeah, I guess we'll see. They do have games in development. We have no clue whether it's a PUBG 2 or it's something else, some spin-off. We'll see. PUBG is most playable it's ever been though, so if you want to try it out, it is free like all these other games. Finally. All right, now moving on to Apex Legends. This game, and to my surprise, this game is probably doing the best out of all of these. And why? Well, let's just jump straight into the Google trend. This looks weird, right? There's so much talk of it when it got released all of a sudden, if you remember that. But then it went down to like 4% of that, and it kind of kept that level, like slowly rising every once in a while. But the Google Trends in the US doesn't tell the whole story. If you look at worldwide, we get the same picture. So what is going on here? So I've trimmed away the launch, and I've just left last like year and a half here. And as you can see, Apex Legends has been pretty steady, even going up a little bit at certain times. So this is different from other battle royales. Every other battle royale has been going steadily down. Again, I cannot really look at that launch as something that is the actual peak. That was just because it was a huge surprise. So all the info came in at once, like through the first 2 weeks. So I wouldn't really look at that, but I would look at anything past that, like from month 2 onwards. And this is something similar to what you would get. These trends do include the mobile game, but again, I wouldn't really stress about that too much. It's not as popular in the US as the PC game. But what's really going for Apex is the Steam chart. Even though this game did not initially release on Steam, so the player count there is a little bit skewed. But look at this. The game is going up. And not just up, it's kind of exploding. In the last year and a half, at least on Steam, it gained, what is that? Like almost 300,000 players concurrent? That's pretty sick. This is the only battle royale that has an upward trend in the player count, at least what we can see. I don't trust this data 100% because I don't really know what goes into this, at least for this game in particular, because it's under EA's Origin thing. Wow, Apex doing really good. This is a surprise. I mean, Apex has been a solid game since it came out, had some issues, but overall, like the game played well, and it was very decent, just all around decent. Over the last 180 days, Apex has been on a slight downtrend on Twitch, but like what game wasn't? But at the same time, it's only 4%. I wouldn't look at it as a huge downtrend. And the game is getting constant updates, and there's a lot going on there. So strangely enough, overall, Apex is the only battle royale that is either holding or even going slightly up. Wow. But again, this is Asia peak time, so it does seem like Apex is getting a lot more popular in Asia, but the oscillation between the top and the bottom isn't as huge as in PUBG. In PUBG, it goes from like 500k to 60k. Here it goes from 300-ish k to 100 and 150k. So obviously, this game is a lot more popular in the West than PUBG is, for example. We're talking like a few times more players. And that is very important in Battle Royales, guys. You need a critical mass of players to fill the servers fast enough. Otherwise, you can never start a game anymore. With the full lobby, at least, you can start with maybe 30, 40, 50, but you're never going to get 100 players in one game fast enough. All right, Apex, I wouldn't say a big surprise, but still seeing a Battle Royale getting more players is rather weird these days. And Apex is S tier just because of the uptrend, okay? It's probably A tier if you look at everything all together right now, but since it's rising, I'll put it in S tier for now. We'll see, maybe in the next tier list it goes back to A or even B, but for now, things are looking good for Apex. And now, what are these for other games? Well, some of these came out in the last year, some of these are going to come out. I'm gonna briefly tell you what's going on here. So Spellbreak came out a year ago, and today it's dead. 200 players. That's a dead battle royale. Like, it did okay when it came out. You got like a few thousand players, but that quickly deflated over the next 2 months, and the game just died very fast. It wasn't the greatest game, I have to say. I've played it in the beta, and there were a few things missing. It had these interesting ideas, you flying, casting spells, making different spells, getting gear, but overall, it didn't really look like it was going to last too much, and it didn't. And now, this game is dead. You cannot really get a full game in it, and it's not worth your time. So Spellbreak, gone. D tier. Next one on the list is Cursed. Now, you probably never heard of this game, but this game had a full rebrand. It was called Cuisine Royale when it came out, and it was rather popular as Cuisine Royale, but it also died because it was basically a meme. If you look at the current players, it has, 200 players. That's the definition of dead again, but it had 12k peak 4 years ago when it was called differently and played differently. Again, guys, same problem, dead. All right, dead. There really aren't that many battle royales that you can play that aren't dead. Dead. D as dead. D-E-D. All right, and now 2 upcoming games. Bloodhunt, the Vampire Masquerade, whatever it's called. Now, this one I think is releasing in April. And if you look at Steam, in some beta tests or whatever, it had up to like 20k players, which was pretty decent, but it also went down pretty fast. Like within a month, they were already at 4k, 5k. That doesn't look promising. I have to be honest, this doesn't look great. Of course, now it's offline, so it doesn't matter, and it will be coming out, but it doesn't seem like the game was received all that well, even though it had some pretty cool mechanics with the jumping and just moving around. Looked pretty fun, but how long will it last? No idea. There were some streamers jumping into it, but I wouldn't say anyone was super impressed by it, and I don't see it succeeding, but just because it's coming out soon and we haven't really seen the full extent of how much people are gonna like it or not, I'm gonna put it in C tier, but I'm not expecting much from this game, guys. It's probably gonna end up like Spellbreak or something similar. Although it will have a better start, so let's see how long it lasts. And the last one is Super People. This is another Korean developer that is doing PUBG mixed in with Apex, sort of. It's PUBG with equipment and superpowers. It's a real shame that I cannot find the player count for Super People anymore. Somehow it's not here anymore. It's not publicly available, I guess. But the closed beta test had, I don't know, like 40,000 people max, something like that. So pretty good number, but it dropped so fast that it meant that there was something pretty seriously wrong with the game. And I saw later that there were some issues. I don't think that they cannot fix it. And a lot of streamers that have played, by the way, look at the Twitch viewers, like 30, 40K. It was doing as good as PUBG, let's say, on Twitch. So the game was doing okay, but apparently a lot of people left over the first month. That is a bad sign. Even though, yes, it is a beta test. No, there weren't all the features in it, but I don't know. I don't know what to think of this one. It's probably going to be put in the same box as Bloodhunt. Hopefully, I'm proven wrong. Hopefully, we get another great Battle Royale. But I don't really trust Korean devs that much these days. We've seen what's happening with Lost Ark. We've seen what happened to a million of other attempts at the Western game releases from Korean devs. After all, PUBG is being developed by Koreans and has been taken over by Koreans 100%. I don't know. I just don't have a great feeling about Super People, but I also don't have anything against the game itself. I just hope it's good. I will play it if it plays really well. But from what you saw in the beta, the game is okay. The players will decide whether it succeed or not. But for now, C tier, it hasn't shown anything that would make it get in front of any of these 4 games that are doing okay. That's it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this tier list. What is your favorite Battle Royale? And what do you think is going to be the best one next year or two? Let me know in the comments. Before you go, guys, check out the Triple E Club merch. It's in the description. sprEEEzy.com/merch. See you in the next one.